Hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and I recently did a little comparison of Wargame's Atlantic Italian models versus their Warlord Games counterparts. And in that video I mentioned the medium machine gun included in the set. In fact, two of them, one on each of the command sprues, and people have asked for some more information. Now, the gun in question builds a Fiat Revelli 1914/35, and whilst I can't comment too well on the real gun, as I don't have one, you can see the Forgotten Weapons video on the earlier Fiat Revelli 1914, that's without the /35 modifications, and I'll link that in the video description. As part of the plastic kit, there are a few pieces to put together. I would recommend starting with the tripod, and this is a point that someone asked about. Which way round do each of these pieces go together? The round discs at the end of each of the legs are the feet, and these will sit flat against the ground. This means that the little peg on the single leg fits into the slot on the front pair. It also means that this little semicircle piece for the elevation points upwards. I would advise putting the tripod on flat ground or whatever basing material you intend for the model so that the feet sit flat against it and you don't end up with wonky legs. Next, we can put the main body of the gun onto the tripod. I did want to make sure that the correct sprue pieces were cut away, and so to make sure that happens I checked against the pictures and against the tripod. I worked out that you do have to cut flush against the bottom of this disc under the gun for traverse. That disc then glues to the top of the tripod, with the rear bar gluing to the elevation semicircle piece thing, whatever that was. There's no keying here, and so you may have to babysit it whilst your glue dries so that it doesn't end up wonky. Whilst that's drying, we can put together the gunner. There are two arms on the command sprue that each have half of the spade grips, which will glue together when the arms go onto the model. To line that all up with the tripod, you should probably use the kneeling body from the main sprue. However, you can use a standing model if you put the tripod on some high terrain, like a big pile of rubble or an embankment. It depends on how you're basing your models. Again, to make sure that everything lines up, you should glue the spade grips to the gun and place them all on flat ground before the shoulders set. And at that point, the gun's complete. So you just have to add a head and maybe any of the other kit if you want to the gunner as well as you prefer. There is, however, one last piece, which is the ammo box. So I have to interrupt myself and re-record a section about the ammo box. I have glued mine down to the base, as the earlier Modello 1914 had just a case that the ammo packets were supplied in, and the loader would lift them out and feed them into the gun. But this version, the /35, uses a more conventional belt feed, and that belt box can be attached to the gun to hold the ammunition in the right place, and that is shown on the Wargames Atlantic box. Just another thing I got wrong. For mine, I shaved the hands off of the spade grips so that I could just have the gun separate without the gunner. I also modified the receiver to resemble the breeder gun, which it doesn't really end up being very much like at all. Well, hopefully that clears up how to build the gun, which some people are confused about. I did actually get confused building it myself because I was trying to build the wrong gun, the breeder. But I did figure out that the parts go together quite well eventually and do match the Fiat Revelli. So thank you very much for watching this shorter version video. I'm ED-SKaR, I always will be, and I'll see you next time.